Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of the Once More for Safety show. I said it because every time I ask Josh, he gets it wrong. So, Josh, how are you today? I said it for you. Are you happy?
Once More for Safety show. Got it. Nailed it.
How are you today, Josh? Are you good?
I'm doing pretty awesome. Yeah. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. We haven't introduced who is on the show yet. With that, Josh, introduce our guest. Who do we have with us today?
We have Nicole Vawser or Nicole Marie Vawser, whichever one she wants to go by today.
I answer to both.
Well done, Josh. Well done.
I'm just sitting here reading the name off the screen. So
that's good. That's good. That's good. Now we're going to talk to Nicole today. Nicole is a jack of all trades here in the Nebraska film scene. She acts. Maybe she doesn't want to act. We'll talk to her a little bit about that. She's got directing, does some writing. Correct. You do all kinds of interesting stuff that we're going to get into. But before we get into that, as we do with all of our guests, we hit them with a rapid fire 12 questions that they. Now, Nicole, you have no idea what we're going to ask you. Is that correct?
Scared.
You're worried? Okay, that was my next question. Are you a little bit worried about what we're going to ask you? Here we go.
Okay, yeah. Nicole, I always start with this question because it's just research for myself. So first rapid fire question, worst candy on the planet?
Black licorice.
What would you be if you had to wear a Halloween costume every day for the rest of your life?
This came up when I was at work today. Mary Jane from Spider-Man.
Favorite cartoon character?
SpongeBob.
If you were given the chance to steal anything, what would it be?
A giant vintage record player. You know, the one that kind of, it's like a big, like, table one.
Okay, interesting.
Nicole, top 3 desert island films.
Pan's Labyrinth is my number 1. Ophelia and Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, what food would you refuse to share?
My spaghetti, man. I ain't sharing that.
All right, Nicole, you can play any superhero in a Marvel or a DC film. What character are you going to play?
Black Widow.
Okay. You've been given a time machine. You can go to one place in the past. One and only one, because you're stuck there for the rest of your life. Where do you go?
My gut wants to say like the Renaissance, but I would miss indoor plumbing, so I'm gonna go with the 70s, the 1970s.
Okay.
All right, Nicole. What Olympic sport that does not exist would you like to see?
Bartending as an Olympic sport.
Chocolate?
Peanut butter.
All right, and my last question, Nicole, is someone is writing a book about your life. What is the title?
Another white person's sob story.
And my last question, what is the most useless talent that you possess?
I'm double jointed in all of my fingers, so I can bend just the tops of them without bending the bottom knuckles.
Oh, that is creepy.
It is.
That gives me the creep from Willies. Okay. Thank you, Nicole, for lasting through our round table discussion. No, that wasn't too bad, was it?
Oh gosh, no, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be.
Okay. We got to make a note, Josh. We got to make these questions a lot harder for future guests.
Yeah, I thought the Olympic sport one would totally throw her off, but it didn't at all. She smashed it. Damn
cool.
Yeah.
All right, Nicole, thank you once again for joining us on the show today. We're going to ask you a little bit about your history here, and let's just start off with a softball question. We always ask this to our guests. Go back to little Nicole.
Aww.
What made little Nicole want to get into creative arts?
The first ever thing I wanted to be when I grew up as a child was a ballerina. Because I took dance lessons for 10 years. So that was kind of like my first intro into performative arts. I was also very much a bookworm, and I loved drawing. So I did a lot of reading and a lot of writing and just like sketching. I didn't really end up sticking with art that much, but I totally still am so in love with writing. And my mom always said when I was little, her dream for me was to grow up and be a writer. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this, or I want to do this. And here I am wanting to be a writer. So she called it.
Interesting. What do you think causes a person to really want to be creative and get into that stuff? Because, some people say, well, it's just inherent, whether it's genetics or whatever, that's just, there's a drive there. Others pick it up along the way. What was it like for you? Do you think that was just always there with you from the very beginning, or did you sort of learn that you wanted to get into this stuff?
I think a younger me would probably say that I wanted to do that kind of thing. Like when I first started being an actor, I always pictured myself ending up in Hollywood or on the Broadway stage, very like just selfish, kind of self fulfilling reasons. But as I've aged, um, I really just feel that I have all these stories that I want to tell and that I love storytelling. And film is a medium I find myself drawn to the most when it comes to how I want to tell my stories. And I don't care so much about like a bunch of people seeing it. I care more about the people who need to see it, seeing it. When I was in high school, I did choir for years and years and years. And my high school teacher said, one of the first days of class, like my freshman year of high school, he went around and he like asked the whole choir class, why do we do what we do? And every single person, oh, it's for this reason, oh, it's for this reason. And he kept saying, no, you're wrong. Like, we don't do any of this for ourselves. We do it for other people. We do it so that, whoever needs to hear this song or read this book or see this scene or whatever, we do it to make their days better and their lives better. That's
Yeah,
like
that's a great reason, and I'm going to steal that when everyone asks Josh and I why we do this YouTube show.
for other
That's the
people,
reason, Josh.
not
I
for
feel good,
us.
Josh. I feel much better, Josh. How are you feeling about that?
I don't know. I do this shit for myself, so but I'll write that down anyway. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I think to a certain degree we all do. I mean, no one is 100% selfless, There's always some motivation for, doing things for ourselves. I think everything we do, there's a little bit of we're doing it for ourselves, but um, at the same time, there can be so many other motives too.
Yeah,
Very true.
it's cool that you have that kind of outlook on art and how you kind of put it out there because a lot of people there's there's egos in all of us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You talk to a lot of filmmakers and actors and everything here. It's all, about them. So it's nice to hear another side of that coming
Yeah.
from an actor and writer and director that you're here to share art and not just take it. So
Yeah.
Now I'm
Thanks.
kind of interested because you said that you primarily are interested in writing, correct? That's kind of what you want to be as a writer.
Um, yeah, writer director, because I feel like I put a lot of myself into the stuff that I write, especially with like, I mean, in general, but like with screenplays. Um, it would take a lot of trust for me to give that to someone else to direct. And when I was in, script writing classes and stuff, they're always teaching you to write things and format things in a way that you could like sell that script. But I don't think I could ever sell one of my scripts. They're all so like precious and dear to me. They're projects that I want to be able to direct and produce.
Yeah, I know exactly how that is because I think I've only ever had one script of mine that somebody else directed. And the only reason that happened was because I intentionally wrote it so that it was like in a bank of scripts. Like, hey, yeah, I'm just going to write this thing that I
Mhm.
didn't really care a whole lot about. I don't mean that in a negative way. It was just like it wasn't sort of personalized to me. It wasn't something I was writing it for something else, not for sort of me.
Mhm.
And yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, I could not just hand my script over that I've spent all this time on to let
Yeah.
somebody else direct it because, in my view, I'm like, I could do it way better, and it's going to be done
Yeah.
in a way in which I'm not happy with. So
Always been very much like an independent do-it-yourself person, and over the years, especially as a bartender, I've had to learn to like let go of some of that control, but I definitely still want that control over my writing.
so you started kind of as a writer, that's kind of what your more of your passion is. So how did you kind of transition into getting into acting?
I started doing a little bit of like acting and musical theater when I was in middle school. My mom and her mom were both actors before me, so I'm technically a third generation actor, and I'm very proud of that fact.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
performance kind of in my blood or whatever, and I do still love performing. I acted all throughout high school, and high school was a bit of a slap in the face sometimes because I didn't think that I was the shit. I didn't think I was awesome, but I did think, I work hard and I deserve to get some of these roles that are going to other people. And the rejection was just very hard to deal with. But I got to college determined to, push past that anxiety. And I got through my freshman year and I still was really in love with acting, but I saw all these amazing, talented people around me. Um, and these were like the best of the best from all over the country. From even I had a classmate who was from Sweden. Like people have come from across the globe to go to Nebraska Wesleyan, which is super cool. But I saw all these people around me who were just amazing and beautiful and wonderful, and I thought, wow, how am I ever gonna make a career? And it was doubtful, but it was also, I think, me finally coming to the reality that making a career as an actor is so hard. And I realized how much I was still in love with writing. And I got into film because I'd done photography and I applied to work at the marketing department at my school. And they had all their photography positions filled. And so they said, would you be willing to be a videographer? And I said, I don't have any videography experience, but I'm willing to learn. And that was when I fell in love with video and editing and basically doing film. And I thought, holy crap, I should do this. I should write screenplays and direct and produce screenplays. And so my sophomore year, I changed my major from a BFA in acting to a BFA in theater studies with a writing minor, which basically meant I just got to design my major. So that was super cool. That's the very long-winded answer to that question, I guess.
Oh, that's cool. Now, I want to circle back to what you sort of initially said, because we asked this of the last actress that we interviewed, Skylar Craig. So anyone who's interested, please feel free to go check out that interview as well. And we asked her about particularly like rejection and how actors deal with rejection. And she had said that, in high school, you know, she didn't feel like necessarily like there was she was down with the rejection, but there was a competitive element, right? So you sort of as an actor, you look at something and you're trying so hard to get a particular role, and then you see something kind of outside your control. Maybe a director says, "Sorry, we're going with somebody else." I think this other person's sort of quote unquote better than you. Ultimately, is what it comes down to, and how you deal with that. So you mentioned you sort of had anxiety and stuff like that. So can you talk a little bit about how what the mindset is of an actor when you put so much into it, you're so passionate, and somebody tells you basically you're not good enough. Sorry. Like how do you deal and cope with that?
Yeah, it's very challenging. At the end of the day, you just have to realize that you are doing your best. You are putting in your effort, your energy, and you can't control other people. You can't control the choices they're going to make. You could go in there and nail the audition, but someone else who's a friend of the director gets the part because they have that connection. A lot of times, sadly, it is about who you know and not so much about hard work and about talent, which is sad, but that's the world we live in. And I mean, I wouldn't have gotten my role in Pigface if I hadn't worked on Psycho Money with Jenna, who was in Pigface 1. So I made that connection with Jenna, and Jenna, so sweet, she passed on that connection to you two, Matt and Josh, and that ended up landing me the role in Pigface. After I auditioned, of course, she got me the audition. But I should circle back to dealing with rejection. It's kind of like life. Some days are better than others. Some rejections hit harder and others you bounce back quicker. And it's just about, I think, knowing your self-worth and knowing your value.
How do you transition into the film work in Omaha? Like, where did you start with the film work in Omaha? How did you kind of get going or find that?
Um, Part of it was COVID, and then part of it was also a previous connection that I'd had. My first two films I worked on at the same time. Um, One was through Wesleyan. It was a student written play that I had been cast in the spring of 2020, and then we all got sent home from school and everything was canceled, so we didn't get to finish producing that play. By the time the fall rolled around of 2020, we were able to go back on campus with limitations, a lot of limitations on theater, especially. And so we decided to turn this play into a short film. And it was about a dying theater company attempting to produce Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but it is just going horribly, horribly wrong. Kind of like, the play that goes wrong. And so I played this diva girl named Sandra, who was cast as Juliet because her dad was funding the whole production. And so then the rest of the cast, there was the director who just wants to be a director and needs a budget. So she's struggling to like deal with me. And then there's also, the actor who played Romeo, and there's tension between us because we hate each other. And then we end up falling in love, and this whole crazy. It was a short one, so it was like, I think it ended up being a 30-40 minute film, and it was so cute and so fun to be a part of. I really got to bring out the bratty side of myself. And then alternatively, the other project I was working on at the same time was a friend of mine from high school named Caden Bai had posted something on Instagram about he was working on a feature-length film that was set in the world of the video game The Last of Us. And his film was called Wayward Brothers. And he posted about it, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks so cool. If you ever need help like doing anything, I'm so there. And so he ended up casting me as an extra in that production. I got to be a zombie, so they put cool zombie makeup on me. And then I also got to make a cameo at the end of the movie as one of the characters from the original video game named Ellie. So that was super cool. And then because I had reconnected with Caden since we hadn't talked in years since high school, he ended up casting me that next summer in his next short film called Psycho Money.
Yeah.
And then from there, I kept getting people went to the premiere, and I'm getting people asking me to audition for their stuff, and that felt so good.
Yeah, Psycho Money was the first thing I ever saw you in, and Psycho Money is awesome. By the way, Caden put out he put it out on YouTube like for like really short time, and
Yeah.
I was able to find it. But I talked up Psycho Money so much, it was just
Aww.
I don't know if so that was his second film, but there's not a lot of people because where you did behind the scenes stuff on Psycho Money too, right? You didn't just act in that; you did other stuff, right?
I was kind of like a PA. I came and just, I'd hold a boom pole here or there, or I did some behind the scenes photography, just little things.
Okay, just for a second film, it hit really really well. I thought Psycho Money was fantastic. So, but that
I
was
was a stunt coordinator. I did the fight choreography for Psycho Money. That was the other thing I did.
so I saw your audition, and then I saw Psycho Money, and that's kind of how we got you for Pigface as well. Just seeing you from that. So, Matt, I'm blanking. So please jump in and help me.
Yeah. I'm interested in, you know, how you find out about auditions here in Nebraska specifically. Is it just word of mouth? You know specific directors who are doing stuff and they reach out to you, or is there any particular place that you go to actually determine whether or not, oh, well, there's a filmmaker in Lincoln and they're doing something? How do you find out about stuff like that, or are you able to?
Most of it is word of mouth, but I do follow the Nebraska Film Association page on Facebook where they post a lot of audition information there. But I think all of the roles that I've gotten so far um, were just from word of mouth. Like mostly people who saw the Psycho Money premiere and messaged me and they're like, "Yo, you got to audition for this film I'm doing."
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about like the audition process. Like, how do you sort of determine? Do you just sort of audition for anything that anybody sort of throws your way, or are you sort of choosy with the things that you audition for? Let me know a little bit about how you, your thought process and how you audition and when you audition.
Yeah, when I first started doing films, I wasn't super choosy, you know. I mostly just wanted to build up my resume and get as many roles as I could and get as put as many things on my resume as I could, blah blah blah. And the past year or so, I've gotten a bit more choosy. I'll ask for information about the film, like the plot and the character they would want me to play. I have turned down directors who wanted me to audition for their films because I wasn't super into the plot or what they were asking of me in a character, and that's totally fine. You know, there's plenty of actors out there. Someone's happy to play it, so I don't feel too bad turning down people. That makes me sound like such a diva. I don't
No,
feel
I think
bad
it's
on
I,
anything.
I think it's important because I have been technically been making movies in Nebraska since 1999, and so
Oh, you're
I've
out
seen
for
many
it.
decades, multiple decades. I'm an old man, decades of how this is this happens, and I fear like there's a youthful movement happening in Omaha right
Hmm.
now, and which I find very intriguing because for the longest time there was just a very selective amount of filmmakers in Nebraska for many years that were doing stuff, and um, it's one of those things where you have to sort of like, I always tell people, be choosy, be picky and choosy. Like, don't be afraid, because a lot of times in the past, what actors would do, they would just take everything because they would be afraid that if they said no to a director, that
Mhm.
director would never cast them in anything again. And
Yeah.
I've seen that happen locally in Nebraska where directors have been that way. And so I think it's very important, especially when you're a young actor that's coming up, to
Mhm.
take the time to research who it is that's making the movie, who
Yeah,
the
for
person is
sure.
that wants to do that, so that you don't get sort of put in a situation where you might feel uncomfortable or anything of that nature. So that's good that you're being choosy and selective. That's what I'm
Yes, and I
basically saying.
think part of, I mean, for me, part of that, like, I have to do everything mentality, I think comes from being raised as a theater actor, as a stage actor, for starters, because when I was in high school and college, there was always the stipulation that you auditioned for everything. You auditioned for every single show. Especially in college, they would do just large auditions basically for like a whole semester and cast it all from one single audition. So you were auditioning for every single show when you went into that audition room, and that's something that has been different and kind of challenging, is making the transition from doing in-person auditions to doing more self-tapes, especially because I've been in films that are located in Lincoln and Omaha, and I mean I would happily drive to either place. I mean I live in Omaha, but um, it's because of COVID, so much more technology has come out where we're able to do, Zoom and Discord and all these like video chats, or just, take a video of yourself and submit it to an audition. And so that has been also, this isn't really about auditions, but learning to memorize lines faster, because things change a lot more on a film set than they ever do on a theater set. And that was a big challenge for me to overcome as a theater person becoming a film person.
Yeah, speak to that a little bit because I had a funny story when I was going to University of Nebraska Lincoln. I was in a theater class. Of course, I'm a film guy. I've always been a film guy. And one of the theater actors, I said, "Hey, I'm having an audition. Would you like to show up for this audition this Saturday or whenever it was?" And she goes, "Ugh, my art form has been around for 3,000 years. Why would I ever be a part of film?" I'm like, "Jeez." So there is this sort of like, I don't know if there's a tension, but there's a very big difference between being a theater sort of stage actor
Mhm.
as opposed to a film actor. Talk a little bit about the differences and the challenges aside from what you just mentioned that have you've encountered in that.
Yeah, for sure. As a theater person, I was always taught, to act for the back row, because we want to make sure that everyone is able to understand what is going on and able to understand, what that character is going through. And so everything in theater tends to be bigger, facial expressions, just characterization, like voices, and styles, and everything in film. It's so much more subtle, and I think me as a person, I have a pretty big personality anyways. So having to learn to kind of, I don't really want to say tone myself back, but also I do want to say tone myself back. Um, and just the acting styles are so different because when you have a camera, you don't have to act for that back row. You just have to act for the room or just, And I really like that about film. It was challenging, but I grew to love that subtlety and being able to capture such small, beautiful little moments that you can't really replicate on stage, especially with framing in film. You can cut between wide shots and close-ups and mid shots, and that does a lot of storytelling, like subconscious storytelling for the viewer, whether they realize it or not. Whereas when you're on a stage, you only have so much you can do. There's limitations, with lighting and with sound. And of course, there's limitations for film too. I hate movie musicals because I think that musicals were supposed to be on a stage. That's my little hot take there. Um,
That's not a high tech. I hate musicals as well, like the movie music. Hate them. Sound of Music, one of the worst movies ever. Hate it.
yeah, for real. Nothing against Julie Andrews. She's a queen. But I think I'm of the mentality that certain stories are best told in certain mediums. Like this story could work better as a book, and this story could work better as a musical, and this story could work better as this or that. And what's what's fun too is that there's some versions of stories that are movies. There's some that are musicals, like Les Miserables started off as a book, and then it was made into a stage musical, and then that stage musical was made into a movie, and then the book, it was also made into a TV show, which I think is the best adaptation of the book. Was just the TV show, because it really just hones in on the story versus the music. And I love Les Mis till the day I die. I will love Les Mis, and I love the music in it, but the story in the musical version is very different from the book and from the TV show that PBS did. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I'll other quick question, then I'll throw it to Josh. You are a strong personality. I've been on set with you on Pig Face too, right? So, and there's nothing wrong with strong personalities. I think it's great to have strong personalities on set because I think that strong personalities add uniqueness and ideas that might not otherwise be there. However, from my experience on the set of Pigface 2, it's difficult for me, and I'm curious if it's difficult for you because you are, a director, writer. You have all these ideas, and I think we're similar in the same ways that when I'm on set and I'm watching something, and I'll just use Josh since he's here, right? Josh is setting up a shot or he's going to do something, and I'm in deep down in my soul, I'm thinking to myself, this needs to be done differently, but I can't say anything because it's not my movie, right?
Oh
It's
my
not my place to be able to say that. Do you have those things when you're on set where you're just like, I have to bite my tongue
God,
because of that?
definitely, especially since I want to be more of a writer and a director. When I'm an actor, I feel like I'm constantly reminding myself, I'm just here to act. Just focus on, remember your lines, remember the scene you're in, remember like where you're like all the focus on the actor brain, but it's because there can be too many cooks in the kitchen. I might have an idea and think, oh my god, this is such a good idea and it would help so much, but I shouldn't say anything because I don't want to complicate things. I don't want us to get behind schedule. I don't want to this or that. And ultimately, I just remind myself that it is ultimately, I think, for the better of the production if I bite my tongue. Most of the time, there are exceptions to that rule for sure. I never really had any moments like that on the set of Pigface, and I'm not just saying that to be nice. I really, I think that was one of the most professional sets I've been on.
It's funny because usually when I'm there and I'm setting up a shot, when I'm deep in thought, just hoping Matt will stop everything and be like, "I can do this so much
Or like,
better.
let's do this
You
instead.
just please listen to me and go stand over there." I'm pretty sure we had an experience one time where Matt was like, "Look, don't do this to yourself. Go stand over there and let me just do this shit."
I don't
Um,
feel like I've ever done that to you on set. Though I will say, Nicole, Josh had actually coaxed me out of retirement and was going to sort of have me direct your death scene because I sort of wrote that death
Oh,
scene. But I
yes,
got COVID. I got COVID and I couldn't be
I
on set.
know. How dare you? You couldn't even get behind the scenes footage of it.
I know, but
Oh,
I
my
told Josh
misery.
because Josh had sent me a clip or two or something of what I was like. I'm not watching this. I'm watching this at the premiere, and I swear to
Oh,
God, if it's not the way it was in my head, friendship's over. So we'll see.
no, don't say
No,
that.
no pressure on
Nicole,
Josh. No
so
pressure on Josh.
fair warning, Nicole. When your death scene comes up, just duck because there's gonna be shrapnel. So if
I
it's
won't
gonna,
blame her. I won't blame her, Josh. I'm blaming you.
oh no. But
Yes.
shit's gonna. I feel like shit's gonna be thrown. You know what I mean? I feel like
Yeah, I'll
I'm
bring
gonna
my
be
tomatoes.
I'm gonna be leaving the theater when that scene comes up, just so I don't get hit with anything.
No, it's fun. It's cool. I'm sure you guys did an absolutely great job. But
Mhm.
get to that point where it's just like, when we have you get so many creative people on set, and everybody who's creative has a different way that they would approach something. And so I
Yes.
always find it interesting, sort of how do you negotiate, speaking up, when you speak up, when you step back. Because I've always been a big proponent of, actors. Whenever I'm making a movie, I tell the actors, first thing is like, I don't care if you come up with an idea immediately before I say action. We're gonna do it. Like, state it.
Aw.
Say what you want to do, because there's been plenty of times when a lot of people think that directors are sort of like auteurs, right? We all go back to the like French film theory and the Jean-Luc Godard, and everything is an auteur. I don't sort of subscribe to auteur theory because, no matter what, you might think that the newest Quentin Tarantino movie is incredible. And yes, Quentin Tarantino writes it, and Quentin Tarantino, directs it and has a huge say. But there's thousands of individuals who are all part of that movie. That's why there's a whole end credit sequence that lasts for 10 minutes long. All of those people helped out on some way to make that movie what it is. And so I've always been a big proponent of never stifle creativity. Let anybody on set say what they need to say. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to agree in the moment that that's the best way to do it, but you respect the other artists that you're with, and you allow them that opportunity to spread their wings. And I might disagree with it in the moment, but in the editing room, I'm like, God damn it, they were right. So
Yeah.
let me put that stuff in.
I while you were talking, all I could think of was Chance Guida because I absolutely love working with him. He knows his craft. He is such a dang good cinematographer. And one of the first things I learned as a director was that the best directors surround themselves with people who are smarter than them. So
That's very true.
yeah,
That's very
like
true.
Chance knows his shit. He knows cinematography. He's someone you want on your team, you know?
Yeah, Chance is awesome. He has been super awesome to work with, and the great thing about Chance too, and then I'll ask my question. But the great thing about Chance too is I've never been on a set where you film something one day and then you wake up the next morning and you have dailies and you have pictures and he's cut something
Yeah,
together
yeah.
and like
When does he
it's
sleep?
bananas. And he does show up every day. When you ask him how he's doing, he says I'm tired because he doesn't go doesn't I don't think he ever sleeps. So but yeah,
My
he's been super awesome to work with, and I'm glad that um I begged long enough to break him down to do this movie with us. Um, so Nicole, you've been on a handful of sets now, and you know there's long days, and
hmm
the especially in a case like Pigface where we've gone now a month over schedule, and sometimes you get covered in crappy makeup and all this other
Yeah,
shit.
the goopy
What
and pee and
Yeah, what makes you kind of come back to keep doing this? Like what when you could be at home sitting on your comfortable couch writing and or doing
yeah,
whatever else, you keep coming back, just not even to Pigface, but any other production. What drags you back?
because for me selfishly, it makes me so freaking happy. Like, and I, especially this past summer, I have been balancing three different film schedules: Pigface, I Refuse to Die in Omaha, Nebraska, and F. All three of these over the summer with my full time work schedule. And it doesn't matter how tired I am when I show up to set or when I show up to work. I just feel joyful. I feel happy as a person, happy with my life, and just happy to have gotten to be a part of such cool productions. Um, and so, yeah, that's my like my self fulfilling side of things is that it seriously just makes me so happy. I love doing it with my whole heart.
I'm going to steal one of Josh's questions. Before we start, because I want to talk about obviously the process of filming your death in Pigface, because I wasn't there, so I want to know what that was all about.
Oh
But
boy.
what's Josh always asks actors like what's your ideal role? Like what is the one role, sort of the type of role you would want to be offered and would love to accept? So
hmm
if someone were to write a script, like what is the role that you're like, I want to play this and I have to play this role?
hmm Um, I'll start by answering this question with the type of roles that I typically get cast in, and that is even since like high school as a young teenager, I have almost always, I don't want to say always, but like I consistently um, get cast as the hot one or the sexual one, like the love interest or the the horny one like Fiona, the crass one, the like just very almost like femme fatale, just the like sexuality, that side of things, which I mean is nice, I guess. But I would really love to play more intellectual characters that are going through. Um, my roommate just got home. Hi, Mitch. um, it's not like one specific role. It's more just I want to play stuff that's different than what I feel like I've been playing my whole life, as I've kind of described. I want to play, like a character like Ruth Bader Ginsburg in On the Basis of Sex. I want to play in Daisy Ridley played Ophelia in the movie Ophelia. I want to play a woman who is intelligent, a woman who is beautiful for her personality and her mind more than just her body.
No, that makes sense because I think that especially in the horror genre,
Yeah,
you start getting into the horror genre, and there, you know, the roles are, it's very rare that you find roles like that, especially like
Mhm.
local micro budget sort of films. It's always like, oh well, let's put as many hot girls as we possibly can on screen and kill them in the most violent way possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a thing, and I always think it's interesting because I don't think that directors ever really ask this of the actors that they work with,
Mhm.
because I do think there is a avenue and space for directors to be able to use the things that actors really want to be able to play as a springboard for their own creativity. Like, oh well, man, I love working with Nicole. Nicole would like to play something like this. Can I creatively come up with a story that could include this
Yeah.
kind of role for her or this kind of role for other people, and sort of make something? Why can't local filmmakers make a feature film or something where all the
Mhm.
people that they work with, they're writing roles that they've really wanted to play their entire life and doing all that
Yes.
stuff. So that's something that I think is
So
interesting. And
excited, you
yeah,
know?
directors should always ask that of their actors, like what have you always wanted to do?
I actually have a kind of a funny story in line with that. One of the projects I worked on this summer was called I Refuse to Die in Omaha, Nebraska. And it's like a coming of age film written and directed by Gavin Lake. And he saw the Psycho Money premiere and then messaged me saying he wanted me to audition for his project. This was way, way back in like February. And so him and I met up for coffee, and we just were chatting a little bit, getting to know each other. And he asked me, what kind of roles have you played before, and what kind of roles do you want to play? And I gave him the answer that I gave you, and he just got really quiet, and he's like, oh, um, well, so the role I want you to audition for is a hooker. A hooker who is the love interest for the main character. So, nail and coffin.
Well, that's where you just got to put your own spin on that
Yeah.
that hooker sort of thing and make it a little different and unique from what you normally see. Let's transition a little bit into your pig face death scene, and I'll throw it over to Josh for this because I was so, you have no idea how excited I was. I that was the one day I was like, I cannot miss this day of filming. This
Mhm.
must be the day. I have to be there. And of course, I catch COVID, and I didn't want to put anybody in any danger or anything. So I was like, I can't be there. And I told Josh this a couple days, I don't know, 2 or 3 days before this. I'm like, look, dude, I just tested positive for COVID. I can't be there on Friday. So from what I heard through the grapevine, your the makeup process was a little bit involved and maybe driving you a
Yeah.
little crazy. So tell me a little bit about that day and getting in makeup and how you were feeling as you were going through the night.
So, I am equally fascinated by and disgusted by gore and gore makeup. I love getting to do it, but then having to watch it, I'm like so squeamish about it. So it's a weird dynamic within myself. And when we shot my death scene, so originally my death scene was one death scene, and then it was written to be three death scenes. So, so
Sorry,
yeah,
I apologize.
it's okay. It was fun. For the most part, it was fun. It was torture, but it was fun. So my first death is I get my face smashed into a hot metal stove, and then Pigface, holds my head there, and my skin and flesh is like burning off. And so that was like the big makeup thing that we had to do. So Heather, um, made this like gelatin mix, and she just had it in like one of those little like coffee pot things, one of those little single pot little coffee makers with the heater on the bottom. She's just, she's swirling it, and she made it skin colored, so it looks gross. She's swirling this skin colored gelatin in a little coffee pot. And so then, we filmed the stuff leading up to that part where he puts my face on the stove, and we filmed him putting my face on the stove, and then it's, they put me in the makeup, and it's going to cut to me with the makeup on, whatever. And so, she has me lay on the couch with, my head leaned to the side so she can, start packing on this gelatin. You know, she's taken like this little like a popsicle stick. She's using a popsicle stick to just lather this gelatin on my face, and it's liquid. You know, it's ideally ideally it is supposed to, you know, solidify as gelatin does. But it was so hot out that night, and it was so hot in the cabin we were shooting in, especially with, you know, only one little fan, no air conditioning, and a bunch of people hanging out in there. And so this gelatin wasn't hardening, it was just melting off my face. It was dripping into my eyeballs, it was dripping into my nose, it was dripping into my mouth. And so I'm like, I got my lips clamped shut, and people are talking to me, and I can't respond. I'm just like, and Heather, she's like trying her best to like wipe up all of this drippy goop on my face. And so then Jesse, who played Pigface, came over and he held the fan in front of my face, and that was like the magic solution. The gelatin started solidify, and things were pretty smooth sailing from there. But I felt so gross the whole time she was putting on that makeup. So she gets all the gelatin packed on, and then she's going in with different colors, like some red and some yellow and some black, like char marks. Ugh. And so then, you know, we go back and we're gonna film the cut to scene where, you know, he releases my head and I peel my face off of the metal cook stove. So she took this like red like gel. It was blood color, but it was like sticky. And she smeared some on top of the cook stove, and then held my face over top of where I was going to be peeling it off of. We got the shot lined up. They start rolling. I stick my face on the stove. They call action, and then I slowly peeled my face off, and there was just these lines of this sticky goop going between my face and the stove, and it looked so nasty.
Look cool.
In the best
Like,
possible way. Heather
yeah.
did so good.
I did tell Matt when we talked about this a couple weeks ago that so far that was my favorite death that we've
Yes.
shot so far. It got a really great reaction the night we shot.
Uh-huh.
When we watched it in playback, it did get a really great reaction. So I do hope when we do screen this that whether it's in front of 2 people or 20 people or 200 people, that
Yeah.
you guys get the same reaction you got that night. So it was great.
Yes.
Have you ever had any effect stuff like that done before, or was that the first time you've ever had that kind of extensive prosthetic work?
I think that's the most extensive prosthetics or gore or whatever you want to call it. That's definitely the most extensive work I've had done.
Okay, cool. So, obviously, you're a busy individual. So, tell us what you have coming up. Like, what films do you have on the horizon that people can check out?
This fall, I'm working on Nervous Records. Very, very excited for that. Originally, I was just cast to be a side character that's in like 2 episodes. And after we did a couple of table reads, Jesse approached me and asked if I wanted to assistant direct. And I'm like, of course, I want to assistant direct. That would be amazing because I've been trying to use acting to get my foot in the door to do behind the scenes stuff, which is usually the other way around. People have to do the behind the scenes to get the acting gig. So I think that's funny. And so then as time goes on, he's like, hey, actually, do you want to like maybe direct a couple episodes? I was like, yes, of course I do. So I have that coming up in the fall. That's very exciting. And then Kate and Bai and my roommate Mitch and I have been working on this project called The Farm, which is a feature that is inspired by the events of the serial killer from Canada. Mitch, what was his name? Robert William Picton. It's inspired because it's fiction. Our story is fiction, but it is we got the idea from the story of this serial killer, and so it's yeah. So it originally we were trying to film it this fall, but with our cast, there were too many conflicts with Nervous Records and with Inner Worlds and with people being out of town and all that fun scheduling stuff. And we still are still working on the script. And so I talked to Kaden and I said, hey, I think it would be for the best for everyone and for the best of the project if we postpone this until the spring. So this spring we will be shooting The Farm, and that's the one I'm most excited about. I meant to bring it up earlier because I'm helping write it, and then Chance is gonna do cinematography. Yay! And then I also have a major role in this one. And spoiler alert, I don't die. This will be like one of the first films where I like horror films that I don't die in. So that's exciting. My parents are gonna like that part.
And you're not playing a hooker, right?
And I'm not playing a hooker. They're
Very
very
cool.
excited about that. And it's in the vein of like the type of character that I want to play. My character's name is Madeline, and the spark of the film is Madeline is on the phone with her father when he gets into a fatal car accident. And Madeline is suffering from schizophrenia, so she's already dealing with some very intense mental illness, and the death of her father is just like a tipping point for her. And so she wants to honor her dad by taking his ashes and, spreading them somewhere beautiful, somewhere in nature, because that was something he valued. And she wants to bring her 3 friends with her. So it's a little bit stereotypical in the idea of like, oh, these 4 friends go on a road trip and then they meet this serial killer and they die. But we're working with a lot of like build up to this point where, there's back and forth about if they even want to go on this trip because there's been so many missing persons reports happening. So there's tension with that. And at the same time, there's this subtle buildup of this serial killer is stalking them. We have plans to have this character's truck, in the background of scenes, like super subtle. And then, when they are ultimately captured, if you go back and watch, you'll realize, oh my God, he was watching them the whole time. What the heck? So I'm super excited to work on The Farm.
Cool. Now, you mentioned that you're obviously interested in directing. Have you directed before, or is Nervous Records going to be the first time you've ever actually been a director?
I directed stage productions when I was in college as part of my degree. And then this past spring, Caden, Bai, and I co-wrote and co-directed a project called A Single Day, which we're going to be showing a 25-minute teaser at Flatwater Festival for. So,
Cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that one too.
That was my breakout in film as a writer and director, was A Single Day.
Nice.
Yes.
Based on the stuff that you've already done, whether it's Psycho Money or any of these other films, is there anywhere people can go to see your work right now, or is that still waiting to be put on YouTube or DVD or wherever?
I'm pretty sure Wayward Brothers is on YouTube, and I think Psycho Money might still be on YouTube. I don't know if it's private and you have to have a special link. The Romeo and Juliet project that I did a couple of years ago was on YouTube, and I think that one's also private. Single Day is still in the editing process, but we plan to do a premiere for that and then eventually put it on YouTube. As for the project I've done this summer, I wrapped one of them in June, and then I just wrapped another one this past Saturday, and then this upcoming Friday I'll wrap on Pigface. So all of those are still,
Saturday. It's Saturday.
It's Saturday. Okay, it's Saturday. Sorry. It's Saturday.
Awesome. So you got a lot of stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Okay. Well, Josh, any final questions for Nicole?
I mean, she kind of hit a bunch of stuff in that last series of conversation. I was going to talk to her about A Single Day a little bit, but she touched on it. So I'm excited for the stuff that Nicole has coming out. Not even really Pigface, but like Single Day and Psycho Money and all that stuff. The combination of Nicole and Caden and Chance has been a lot of fun to kind of watch. Chance has talked a lot about their projects, and he's kind of let me in on a few of those things. And I'm just really excited that team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. So that's all I have.
Yeah, it's interesting as being like old hands at this, old veterans of the Nebraska film scene, and watching the sort of like the youth movement that's coming up, and seeing, because it used to be, Nicole, at least probably the late aughts to early 2012, I would say 2008 to about 2015,
Mm-hmm.
there were tons of filmmakers in Nebraska just making tons and tons of things.
Wow.
And then it all just kind of stopped. So it's really nice to sort of see a new sort of generation coming up. So if don't ever hesitate to reach out to the old graybeards if you ever have any questions or need advice on something. We'll be happy to let you know. We want to still feel we're important, right, Josh?
Right. Yeah. Well, you said you made it was. I was going to hit on this earlier. You said you made your first film in 1999, and I'm pretty sure I heard Nicole say I was born in 1999.
I did say that.
It made me feel really, really old. So
yeah, I think we had that conversation behind the scenes on Pigface. I was like, man, these
as long as I've been alive.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for taking the time out of your day to be on the show. Please feel free, everyone watching this, to go. If you're a director, hit Nicole up. If you got audition opportunities, if you're a viewer, check out a lot of these great movies that she talked about. And we'll try to get some links from you. We'll put them in the description of the show notes if there's anything available, so you guys can go click on those. But thank you again, Nicole. You were great. We'll have you on again once all this stuff is released and you become a huge famous actress. Don't forget us. Don't forget us.
Of course not. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It was awesome to get to talk. I love talking film stuff any chance I get, so this was awesome to get to do.